Good morning and welcome to the Think and Grow Rich MasterMind show. My name is Ann McMillan. I am the Master Wealth Builder, helping you to build a stronger and better business and life with this philosophy. And I'm very excited. Yes, every single Saturday we come here to share with you a principle from the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Well, today is going to be another special show. Why? Because today we're continuing our conversation about this phenomenal principle called imagination. I'd like to introduce to all of you my co host, none other than, yes, Mr. Gayla Bingham. And, and she knew I was calling you first. And of course, Dr. Peter James. Good morning, young men. How are you both this morning?
Wow, I haven't been called young man in a long time. I'll take it. I'll take it. This is going to be another great conversation, not only because we're going to be talking about one of the most powerful elements of this process, but the guest this morning, Mr. Michael Baptiste, he actually lives this. I've become familiar with his story and every element of his life. He has exemplified this particular principle. So I can't wait for our audience to hear him again and to get his message.
Peter?
I am so excited to be here today. I have a question for both of you and our audience right off the top. What did you wake up this morning imagining? Imagining, right? And how can you make it come to fruition? Right. Mm-hmm. So we're diving into this imagination chapter of Napoleon Hill's great book. And I'm so excited to identify with our special guest today, how and what he is imagining on a regular basis. My name is Dr. Peter A. James, and I am thrilled. Look, I imagined this show this morning. I don't know about you guys.
well, let's do this. Before we bring our phenomenal guest on, let's just share with our audience, what is it that we're talking about? And very simply, Napoleon Hill tells us that this particular principle, imagination, is also considered to be the workshop of the mind. And I like to encourage people, as Dr. Peter James has just encouraged us to think about, what did you wake up thinking about and that you're going to imagine? And so imagine your imagination, and your mind is a workshop. What are you working on? And that is the power of this conversation. And we want to encourage and invite all of you listening to comment, like, and share this show. But if you think about the fact that this workshop is, according to Napoleon Hill, is where all your plans are fashioned and created. But the impulse of the power of desire, this is where you give it shape, form, and you give it action. And so what we're going to do right now is talk with the man who is giving his imagination a lot of action. Good morning, Mr. Baptiste, Michael Baptiste, and welcome to the show again. How are you this morning?
Yes, I am excellent, and thank you so much for allowing me to come on. I'm excited for this opportunity, and great morning to you as well, Galen. Great morning to you as well, Dr. James.
Thank you. Well, right now, when we think about this power of imagination, what I'd like to have you, Michael, if you can share your introduction to this book right after we have our 13 steps, which ties together all of these principles. Dr. Peter's going to share with us the 13 steps. And then when we return, we're going to ask all of our guests, our audience, which are also guests every week. We want to thank you for joining us. But we're going to get into your story. How were you introduced to this book? And then how are you using your imagination? So we'll hold that for just a moment. But I'd like to have our audience just walk through with us these 13 principles and to give the backstory of why we're here every week and what are we talking about. Because as we talk about each one of these principles, they're like links in a chain that become stronger and stronger and stronger as we learn more. So, Dr. Peter.
Absolutely. And before I even introduce these 13 steps, I want to make sure that I recognize Ruby in our chat, Ada in the chat. Good morning to you both. Doretha, good to see you as well. Thank you for being with us this morning. And I want you all to comment, what are you imagining? What did you wake up imagining this morning? And as I dive into these chapters, these principles of Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, this imagination chapter is just one of 13, chapter 5 of 13, right? And so now as we listen to the video, really think about how it fits into all the other things the video is going to mention, all the other principles the video is going to mention, and how this also plays into your life. So without further ado, let's give it a listen.
Number 1 is desire. Napoleon Hill said that everything starts with a burning desire, a compelling reason for doing what it is we do. Step 2 is faith, having belief in our ability to attain that which we desire. Step 3 is what we call autosuggestion. Autosuggestion simply means being very intentional about the things that we are pouring into our thoughts, into our brains, and into our consciousness. Our brains, our minds will receive everything automatically, but we have to work extra hard to make sure that the positive things are what we are feeding ourselves, because those positive thoughts are going to turn into positive actions. Step number 4 is specialized knowledge. No one person knows everything, even about whatever their particular area of expertise might be. And the value of the MasterMind principle is using the specialized knowledge of other people. Step number 5 is imagination, the workshop of the mind. Everything starts with our imagination and our thoughts, the burning desire to transform those thoughts into our reality. In order to do that, we have to take a look at step 6, which is organized planning. That is how we crystallize our desire into action, organizing ourselves. Having the thought and not acting on the thought isn't going to get us anywhere. We have the thought, we go through the organized planning to transform that thought into action. Step number 7 is decision. What Napoleon Hill said is the mastery of procrastination. Napoleon Hill said that the antidote to procrastination is simply to make a decision and then move on that decision. Step 8 is persistence. We have to have a sustained effort which is induced by our faith in order to achieve our goals. One of Napoleon Hill's books I love, even the title, 3 Feet from Gold. Those people who became rich during the gold rush in the wild, wild west days didn't do that because they were necessarily smarter or had better information than anyone else. It's because they stayed just a little bit longer. Sometimes people left when they were just literally 3 feet from gold. So hanging in there, being persistent, is step number 8. Step number 9, the power of the mastermind, the driving force. None of us can accomplish anything on our own. Everybody, I don't care who you are, from the most prominent person to the person who might be considered the lowest on the totem pole, everybody has someone who helped them get to where they are. And the power of the mastermind is being able to use those influences around us, use the thoughts, use the knowledge, use the exploration of other people to help us in achieving our goal. Step number 10, the mystery of sex transmutation. This title can be a little confusing, but essentially what the mystery of sex transmutation means is that we oftentimes in our society think of sex as being purely physical. It is absolutely physical, but what Napoleon Hill teaches us is that sex also has an emotional element, and that sex is the strongest of our desires. That if we can take our sexual energy, transform that into positive, creative influences, it can propel us to new heights. And so we spend quite a bit of time talking about the mystery of step 10, which is sex transmutation. Step number 11 is the subconscious mind, which Napoleon Hill tells us is the connecting leap between our human mind and the infinite intelligence, the source of all thought, the source of all creativity. Conscious mind, we spent some time talking about how we use that through the influence of autosuggestion and what we're feeding into our mind. Step number 12, which is the brain, the broadcasting and receiving station of thought. Final step number 13, the sixth sense, the door to the temple of wisdom. This is the final step through which infinite intelligence may and will communicate voluntarily without any effort from or demands by the individual. The principle is the apex of the philosophy. It can be assimilated, understood, and applied only by first mastering the other 12 principles.
Yes, some great stuff there for sure. And 13 principles, 13 chapters. If you have not picked up a copy of Think and Grow Rich, I encourage you to do so. One last thing, and I'll pass it back to Ann. Such a great guest that we have today. As you think about your imagination, think about what Michael is getting ready to tell us as well about how he had imagination and stepped out on his imagination, stepped out on faith in order to accomplish his dreams overall. Ann McNeil, I'm excited to dive in.
How Michael stepped out on faith using his imagination, but he first had a desire. And Napoleon Hill tells us that the only limitation within reason lies within our own use of our imagination. And what Michael is going to demonstrate for us today is how he has used his synthetic imagination. And for those of us that are wondering what in the world that is, very simply, when you think of synthetic imagination, just imagine taking an old idea, and I like to use ballet and circus, and you merge them together and you create a third Cirque du Soleil. You can do this with any thoughts that you may have yourself as you think of what people have done to take two forms of something that already exists and create something else. But the creative imagination is what you must use in order to take these two ideas and creatively create something else. And you do that with hunches and inspirations, and also a mastermind group of alliance of individuals who are bringing their own hunches and imagination and their inspiration together to help you create something else. And so with those thoughts in mind, we're going to ask Michael, we're going to have you come on. And first of all, welcome again.
Thank you.
Yes. And we're going to have you share with us your first introduction to the book as you share your story. And then we're going to go into, I told them when we talked about this, who would be hosting the show. I said, I don't know if I'm a good person to host the show, because I'm probably the best person to host the show, because the two stories I would like to have you share when you get to that point naturally deals with how you used your mind, how you use your imagination to achieve your desire. And that's a continuous journey. We know that. But let's have you share with our audience, really, who are you and where did you come from? Because I think it's very important before we make the point, in order to cement that point, people really want to know, where did you come from? You know, you're all high and mighty now, you know, this world traveler, and people really cannot relate to all of that. And I say that seriously because, again, one of the people that I love listening to is Jim Rohn. And for many years, I never understood why he kept telling that Girl Scout cookie story. And for those who've ever heard of Jim Rohn, you can go to YouTube or Google him. And he talks about, you know, the girl, he lied to a Girl Scout. And she came to the door and she was selling Girl Scout cookies for $2. And he said, you know, I'm sorry, honey, I already have Girl Scout cookies. We don't need any. But when he closed the door, he felt so bad because he was so broke, he didn't have $2. Now, I share that with our listeners because as we listen to your story, I know you have more than $2, but again, we 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 relate to people based upon where we are, and everybody is not where you are right now. And many of us, you know, will appreciate your journey. So can you take us on that journey, please?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. First, I want to make sure, is my audio coming through clear? Just let
Yes.
me, okay, great. I just wanted to confirm. And thank you, Ms. Ann McNeil. It's an honor, it's a pleasure. And I'll get right to it, ladies and gentlemen. So my name is Michael Baptiste. Some people call me Michael Over Deliver Baptiste. And I was born in South Miami, Florida, to a single mother, a teenage mother, while my father was in prison. And my neighborhood was gang influences. There was drugs. There was, all types of drug addicted people. You know what I mean? There was all types of crime happening in my neighborhood. And I had a choice, either become a product of my environment or find a way and do something that nobody else in my family's done, which is rise up out of this environment and making a way for myself. So growing up in this environment, man, it was pressure. Every day was pressure. Some days there wasn't as much food as I would have liked it to have been. My mother worked very hard. She was working at the hospital, sometimes 10, 12, even 14-hour shifts. She was working nonstop just to be able to pay the bills and help us get by. So for me growing up, that really inspired me to want to make something out of myself, to want to be successful, and to want to show my mother and my grandmother that their sacrifices for me, they meant something. They were worthwhile. So that gave me the desire, as it's one of the first chapters in the Think and Grow Rich book. That gave me the desire to want more for myself and want more out of my life. And so I worked hard in basketball, ended up earning a scholarship to play college basketball. 2 knee surgeries later, I dropped out of school. I fell into depression. I felt like my life was over. I felt like I didn't have anything, because if I couldn't have basketball to be successful, there was nothing for me, because this is what I was indoctrinated to believe. And then while out of school, I came to realization that I want to inspire other people. Maybe I'm not going to be successful, but perhaps I can help somebody else who has a chance to make it in basketball. I started coaching kids on how to play basketball better. Then I found my passion. I realized I love this, man. I want to do this, but I want to do it in a way where I'm not yelling at kids all day and in the hot sun at the park all day. So I got back into school at Florida Memorial University. And when I got into school, I was searching for a mentor. I was praying to God for a mentor, literally like for months and months and months. I was just praying, please, God, help me out. And I went to a luncheon with our university at Florida Memorial University. There is where I would meet my mentor, the great, the amazing Miss Ann McNeil. And after going back and forth and exchanging, Miss Ann McNeil placed the book Think and Grow Rich in my hand. Now, at the time, I wasn't too interested in Think and Grow Rich. I was not interested in none of that. And I'm like, why is she on me so hard? Like, why is this lady constantly telling me to do stuff? I don't get it. And I'm so grateful. I'm so thankful, because what she was doing is she was reinforcing the principles of Think and Grow Rich and the principles of success that she discovered along her many decades of transforming so many other people's lives. So I took that information and I internalized that information. And while in school, I just followed what she said to do. I'll be real, I wasn't the best student. Some things I did not do, but I took as much as I could, and I just began to implement, take action. Now, as I was reading the book Think and Grow Rich in my college dorm rooms, the idea came to me, man, what if I can actually get into business, and what if I can get into a business where I could be a part of a team that could change the world? What if that was possible? You know what? This book, Think and Grow Rich, told me about it. Let me follow the goal formula in Think and Grow Rich. Let me write it out. Let me print it up right here in my dorm room. And every morning, every afternoon, and every night, I'm going to read this, and I'm going to read it with emotion and with feeling, right? Like I'm going to read it with as in my heart, as if it's already happened. And so I did this for several months as a college. What was I? I was a college senior. I did this for several months, not knowing what was going to happen, just trusting Miss Ann McNeil and the Think and Grow Rich principles. Just I didn't have anything, man. I wasn't going back home to the projects to stay there forever, right? Like I was the first Black male in my family to make it to college and potentially graduate. Like it was a must that I succeed at all costs. So I began to take action on this information, and I began to do. And then eventually I got to a point where I realized that I had knowledge, I had skills that I could share with others, because I was doing digital marketing in college. That's when I decided to do a seminar. After that seminar, people showed up After that, going back and forth with different people, I walked away with one deal from that seminar, and it was a deal to take on a project called Banana Wave Banana Milk. Now, this was just an idea. It didn't exist. It was pure 100% imagination. But it was the idea of taking milk that already existed and bananas that already existed and combining them and creating literally a new product category in the mass market. And so when my partner presented the idea, I said, wow, this is genius. Nobody's got it. I think this is it. This is the thing I've been praying for. This is the thing I've been doing my goals. I've been reading my goal formula religiously and consistently every day for months. And now this opportunity shows up. So literally from scratch, we all just say, hey, we got to figure this thing out. We don't know how we're going to do it. It's a great idea, but we're going to figure this out no matter what it takes. And there were many days, many weeks, many months where things weren't working out. We didn't have finances in order. We had to figure things out. But eventually, through things like imagination and just visualizing the investors saying yes, visualizing the stores that we wanted to get into, visualizing the end result where we want to be, visualizing the companies later on that would take interest in and see what we're doing and help us get more distribution. We would literally visualize these things when we had nothing. We had nothing. Okay. We all just had a dream. We were a bunch of college kids that didn't know much, but hey, we got a dream, we got energy, and we're going to go for this now, because if we don't, then we may never have another chance. And so after several years of working with the team, and eventually we went out there and we won a business plan pitch competition. From that win and that award, that led to us finding and attracting investors. Those investors said, we love it. We love the idea. We're sold. Let's do it. And that eventually led to us as a company raising over, I think it was about over, it was several hundred thousands of dollars in startup capital from friends and family, as well as angel investors. And we took that startup capital. We literally went to a manufacturing facility. We got them to produce our first 5,000 cases of commercial product. I mean, it was incredible. After producing these first 5,000 cases of commercial product, we then launched the product into the commercial marketplace. And literally within within about 3 months of us launching commercially, we got a phone call from Whole Foods after trying to get into their store for 2 years. We were very consistent. They called us. They said yes. We'll try the product. We'll take you on. And then we got in stores. The product started selling. Other stores and other companies started seeing what we were doing. And then the next thing you know, other companies started giving us a phone call. We actually had companies reaching out to us. I'm not going to keep going. My point is that we use imagination to just visualize what we wanted to have happen. We stayed consistent. We took action. We kept the desire strong. And eventually things showed up. So without continuing to make this story too long, that's some of the success I've experienced through using imagination.
Well, I was a part of living through that, Michael. And that's why I think that you are an ideal example of the power of this principle in this book and what can happen if you have a desire, and a desire mixed with ideas associating with the mastermind group and the power of imagination, synthetic and creative. And this is possible for anybody. Napoleon Hill shared the story of how Coca-Cola was formed. He also shared the story of, the beginning of the armor story with the university that was created for men and women, if you will, to study a trade. All of these things started with an idea, and your story starts with an idea. But what I'd like to do now is bring on both my co-hosts. And I know they're sitting there after listening to your story. And then I'm going to come back to the trip to China, because I really want our audience to understand whatever you're thinking about. And thank you, Peter, for opening with that. When each of us woke up this morning, what was the top of your mind? What were you thinking about? What were you designing? What were you imagining? Can you put it in the chat? Let's have some dialogue with our audience, because this is the power of a strong desire, not just a weak desire, but a strong desire. So Galen, we'll go to you first with your question, and then we'll go to you, Peter.
Yeah, I am I'm sitting here listening to your story, but I'm also watching you tell your story, and it reminds me of not only myself but so many other people who are on the other side of understanding what this philosophy is about, where we're just convinced, we have evidence, we have experienced this thing working. But I remember being on the other side, where I'm watching Ann McNeil and she's got all this energy and excitement and insistence that I get involved with this. And I didn't get it. I didn't understand. And so my question to you is, what was your all in moment where you went from saying, who is this lady and why is this so important to her, to the guy that we're watching now where you're like, this stuff works. I don't know how it works. It just works. What was your all in moment where you decided to just play hard and this is the way you were going to make things happen?
Great question. So my all-in moment, it comes from the pain that I experienced. And I had to take a look at the pain. It's like, hey, either I can go back to where I came from, which is, I mean, not a whole lot, very humble beginnings, or I can take a chance, give this woman a listening ear and just trust it, because there's nobody else in my life that's coming and pouring into me like she was. Outside of basketball coaches, there's nobody else. So I said, you know what? There came a point in time, Galen, where I just had to look in the mirror and I had to just come, just come to terms with the fact that there is nobody else in my support system giving me this type of information. And it's either I can go for it or I can go back to, go back to humble beginnings. But that wasn't an option. So I would say the all-in moment came when I looked at myself in the mirror and came to terms with the fact that she's genuinely trying to help me, and she transformed my entire life. Like, generations of my family will be transformed because of Miss Ann McNeil.
Yeah, yeah. Was there one event that happened because you were following this process? What was the first thing that you can remember happening, and you're like, this doesn't make any sense to me based upon what I've experienced before? It has to be this process. It has to be this philosophy that Napoleon Hill is talking about.
Yes, there's a quote that Napoleon Hill has in the book, and it goes, our great, and I may be getting this a little wrong, but it's with every defeat or every bit of adversity comes a seed of a greater or equivalent benefit. I was at the time working on growing my internet business, and I reached a point where I just had so much frustration. I began to cry tears. Like, I was so frustrated. And I said, God, like, I'm just like, man, well, like, what should I do now? Like, what is the thing I should be doing? And I remember, I would attend different events, and I would attend different experiences that Miss Ann McNeil would put together or host or have and whatnot. And she would tell me, Michael, you should get into doing events and recording yourself and things like this. So as I was hearing this moment of frustration, it just hit me what she said. It just downloaded, said, do an event. And literally within about 20 minutes, I made a decision that I was going to do an event. I didn't know the name. I didn't know the content, but I said, I'm going to just do this event because I've been reading this goal every day consistently, and nothing showed up, but this idea just showed up. Let me take action on it. And for me, that was the moment. Yeah, I remember that was the moment right before the breakthrough came where I did the event. And I realized, wow, like, I actually can do this. I would say that was the breakthrough moment where I reached that point of frustration where it seemed like nothing was working, nothing was going to work.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, thank you. I think we all experience that magical turning point, and I'm just so glad that we have you here to share your story. I think so many people can relate, maybe not to the specifics of your story, but they can relate to that moment when what's happened in my life to this point, that's not working. That's not working. I got to try something different. So thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Dr. Peter, what do you got?
Wow. Yeah, a good story. Actually, I could sit here talking all day with you, Michael, because your path is almost imagination after imagination after imagination, and execution, execution, execution. And I want to go back to something that Ann said earlier, is about your desire and your will, which is really evident, has been evident in order for you to be where you are. But now that we've spoken about that, let's talk about everyone who's listening, to include myself, right? And here's my question for you, Michael. I can imagine and dream all day long, right? And I'm specifically in a season of cutting the umbilical cord and different stuff that really is not benefiting me and is really not helping me move forward towards that dream, towards that goal. What do you recommend for those who are watching who are attached to something that maybe they need to imagine or plan and execute not to be attached to that any further in order to blossom? You know, I'm thinking of a caterpillar turning into a butterfly in order to really bloom. You know, what are your recommendations or your thoughts around that?
Yes, that is a great question, actually. The first thing I will say is that one must first gain clarity on what are the things in our lives that are either lifting us up, nourishing us, providing that type of value, or what are the things that are pulling us down, slowing us down, and providing toxic value in our life. I would say that's the first thing in regards to seeing what we need to detach from. The next thing is, once we get that clarity, then we need to establish what do we want this new reality or this new environment or this new, this new life, right? This new segment or this new chapter of our life. What do we want that to look like? Now we got the clarity. Now we got this new clarity of what we want life to look like. Then is when one should begin the process of, in their imagination, imagining themselves in that new environment. Yes. Yeah. But also, I believe that it's important to, whatever an individual's relationship is with the creator, I believe that it's important to ask the creator for assistance and for guidance, because there's some things that are in us that are not necessarily tangible that we can't see, that the creator can see. So I would recommend an individual take those things that don't serve them, that they want to detach from. I'd recommend they begin to visualize this new life, include all of their senses in this visualization technique, remain consistent, have the desire, remain persistent as well. But also I would recommend them to take these things they want to detach from and just give them to the creator and literally visualize themselves, kind of separating from those things and merging with that new reality or that new life that they want to create for themselves. That's what I would recommend.
Yeah, I love that. It's definitely a process. It definitely should not be like you're just severing the relationship right now. But what does it look like? How are you putting it into play? And then how are you imagining it? Maybe using some affirmations, connecting with the creator, as you mentioned, and then moving forward, executing on it for sure. Thank you so much for that there, Michael. And McNeil, I don't want to hog him away now from you. So you better just take me away. You are on mute, Ann McNeil.
Oh,
now
how about now? How about now?
You're good. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Mike. You just reminded me of another story that I'd like to have you share when you talked about imagining the life you'd like to live. And that was a conversation we had while you were in school. And I asked you about, if there was one thing that you really like to do more than anything else, what would that be? And you shared with me about traveling abroad. And I said, where would you like to go? And you shared with me where you wanted to go. And I said, okay, go. And you were like, well, I don't know what to do, how to do, da, 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 da. And you know exactly the story I'm talking about, because I don't even know if we mentioned where you are, participating with us from today in another country. But that's not the story I would like for you to share, because again, we're talking about the power of imagination. And yes, I met Michael while he was in college. I've hired in my firm over 100 interns in my construction business in over 40 plus years of being in business. And Michael is one of those students who I just adopt, right? And there's hundreds of them, over 100 from my university, and there are others. I believe that whatever the mind, yes, of man can conceive, that's what Napoleon Hill shares with his quote, you can achieve. But it starts with the desire and the imagination for something greater than what you see and becoming something greater than what you are. Now, for Michael, if you would share with us what happened and where did you go, and how did that change your mindset for that trip?
Yes. Great question. I decided. Let's start back when you asked me. So you asked me where do I want to go abroad, and I was like, abroad. I'm not even sure. And I remember that question triggered something in me that activated just a deep desire that I did not know that I had, which was to travel. So I decided that I would travel and study abroad in China. And I actually went to Beijing, China to go study abroad, but it was not an easy process. It was not, because I had to do all types of things to raise the money, write scholarship letters, write essays. I mean, and I'm very fortunate that through, the love of people in my life, that they were able to donate. Some of them contributed. And one of my friends and business partner, and now he's a brother, he actually bought the plane ticket that I needed to go from Fort Lauderdale to China. So that trip, it ignited something in me, and it made me realize, hold on, there's a huge, big world out here. There's this huge earth that it's available for all of us. Okay, you know what? Yeah, I'm doing study abroad right now, but I'm just visualizing what my life is going to look like once I graduate, once I'm finished with school, once we set these business up and we get it in stores and I'm able to like earn income, my own income. Man, it would be just amazing if I could just keep traveling until I just find somewhere where I'm like, hey, this is a place I want to be here. So when I came back from study abroad at the end of 2013, I just had this taste in my mouth, like this desire to just travel and keep traveling and see what else is out there in this world. And with the success of our Banana Wave business, mixed in with the success of my online coaching business, I realized, hold on, like I'm making enough to support myself to live in another country. I'm making enough to support myself to live here, but I can support myself in another country. All I need is the internet, and I need to be able to check emails and get on the internet and communicate with my clients, and I'll be able to live the life that I choose. Well, that was in 2017 that I said, okay, let me now go for this dream that I've been imagining since I've been in college. The very first moment Miss Ann McNeil asked me, where do you want to go? It was like, what? Go where? What? From that moment, it's now led to me having been traveling around the world for a few years now. Nonstop. But the place where I'm at right now, I'm actually located in Thailand. And I just want to say this. I know this may be going a little bit long, but I'm just going to say this because I believe it's important for imagination. So while I was growing up in South Miami, in the projects, low income community, my father was in prison, as I mentioned my story before. One of the ways that I saw myself escaping from the hood was through sports, through basketball. Now, two knee surgeries in college, it makes you think, you know what? I should change up. I'm going to do something else besides playing basketball. I don't want to have another knee surgery, right? So I decided that I would go into entrepreneurship. Things happened. We created some success, thankfully, through all of the success principles I've learned and took action on while I was traveling abroad. Now, while I was traveling abroad, I was just thinking about business clients. But I didn't think about basketball. I gave it up years ago. I said, I'm not going to the NBA no more. I'm not going professional. It's over. Well, while going after this other dream of just traveling the world and seeing what else is out here, I went to a basketball gym to play basketball. A guy noticed my talent. He came up. We had a long conversation. And at the end of the conversation, he basically offered me an opportunity to play basketball for money. Now I'm just like, man, let's play a little basketball. So we played in a couple tournaments and we win one tournament. Next thing you know, I'm like local, like they put me in a newspaper. They put me on the local television channel in Thailand and Chiang Mai. And I'm like, wait, huh? I don't get it. Like, I'm just playing basketball. And after winning the tournament championship and the MVP, I get a phone call a few months later and I actually get drafted as the first draft pick to play in the Thailand Professional Basketball League in the 2019 season. And for me, this was 16 years of imagining and dreaming myself playing basketball. And it finally came to realization after I decided to take action on another dream, another imagination of traveling. But again, all of these things I've done, I know it may be kind of difficult to grasp it, but I could just tell you, like, coming from a single mom, a teenage mom, while my father was in prison in the projects of South Miami, Florida, if I can come from something like that and I can use this brain that you have a brain, I have a brain. If I can use this mind, this brain, then I can imagine things and then take action consistently, following the principles and Think and Grow Rich, and things show up. Look, if I can do it, you can do it. For wherever you're at in the world, maybe my story sounds far-fetched. Maybe it sounds too good to be true, but it's my story. It's what I lived. And I'm telling you, please, like wherever you're at listening to this, if a little old kid from South Miami who was born to a single mom and teenage mom in the projects while his father was in prison, if a little old kid like me can think and dream and make some things become a reality, if I can do it, you can do it too.
Michael, I want to listen. The chat is blowing up, and we really want to thank everybody. Tashana, Oren, Doretha, all of you, and of course Peter and Galen and Cherie, all of you that's making comments in the chat. Thank you so very, very, very much. This is what it looks like. Michael is just putting a face on it. But what is it? I want to go back to what Peter said. What is it that you desire? What is it that each of you want? What is it that you can imagine? What were you imagining when you were younger? You see, because it is through, and Michael said something very powerful. He said he took action. You see, it is through these thoughts that we're having, they form vibrations. They form vibrations in our mind and also in the minds of others. And this is why you can think of someone, hadn't thought of them in a while or seen them, and all of a sudden they show. How does that happen? Because of vibrations, because of the ether, because of the energy, but because of your creative imagination, you drew them to you. The question becomes, what are you drawing to you on purpose? Michael shared his story, and every single one of you listening, you each have a story. But are you willing to use your own imagination and imagine a life that you'd like to live, a product you'd like to create, travel? What is it that you're imagining? So I'm going to bring my co-host back on, and we're going to find out what they're imagining as everybody shares a little bit about who they are, how you can reach them, and any aha moment from what's been shared today. We'll start with you, Galen.
Yeah, one of the things that I've taken from this conversation, and I'll come back to your question, Ms. Ann, is that Michael is here telling a story because you, Ann McNeil, invested in him. You've got to have someone who's willing to invest in you in order to see something greater that you might not even see for yourself. And I want to share with you guys, about this annual meeting that we have every year, where you can find just that. You can find people who will invest in your dream, so that you can borrow from their confidence, even if you don't have that confidence just yet. And it's the annual meeting. It happens every year. It's a meeting for your life, January 7th through the 8th. This upcoming year in Boca Raton, Florida. You have to bring your life in writing. You have to document not only your plans for this upcoming year, your goals, the details of how you plan to achieve those goals, but you also have to take stock for what did you do for the last 365 days. It's almost like going to a tribunal where you're making the case for having another year of pursuing goals. And if you can't demonstrate that you have done a great job of stewarding the last year of pursuing these quote unquote goals that you have, then you've got to make the case for how this upcoming year is going to be different. And that's where people will invest in you. They will invest in your dreams. They will actually help you make your dream come true. So I would encourage everyone to be a part of it. It is a family event. It actually works best if you can bring your family and have them be a part of this birthing process. So that's a big, really important part of this process. My name is Galen Bingham. I am the leadership strategist, and you can get a hold of me by going to www.killglobalcoaching.com. Also, you can reach out to me and be a part of my conversations on my podcast, Whiskey, Jazz, and Leadership. We connect with a lot of leaders from all industries, from all walks of life, and we ask them those questions that get to the heart of what does it take to be successful? What does it take to help others either achieve their dreams or to achieve your own? And it's real talk that you can't get from anywhere else. You can find that on any podcast platform. And I double dog dare you to check me out and subscribe to that podcast because we might possibly be able to change your life. Back to you.
All
Andy.
right. Thank you, Peter. Dr. James.
Yeah, good stuff. Where do I start? Where do I finish off? So, Michael has really provided us with his template, right? His template that has worked to get him where he is. And I think now the challenge for all of us who are listening and who are watching and hearing his inspirational story, you have a dream, you have a goal, you're imagining it. Now, how much do you believe that you can achieve it? How much do you really embrace that this is going to be a reality? What is your will? What is your desire? And then now, are you willing to go through what you need to do in order to get there? As Michael had told us, it's not the road to get there is not the straightest. It's a little curvy, comes with little challenges. But again, what does your desire look like? I desire to have a large coaching and consulting practice. I also desire to have a large real estate empire, for lack of a better word. I'm putting it out there. Now I'm asking all of you who are watching, put your dreams out there as well. And now engage, execute. I'm Dr. Peter A. James, the high performance coach, helping you to shift your mindset. You can find me on any social media platform at Dr. Peter A. James. That's at DrPeterAJames. And McNeil, what are you imagining?
Wow, I'm imagining an organization of like-minded and like-spirited individuals who have a place of accountability, and that is the International Mastermind Association. That's who we are, and that's what this is. So I want to encourage everybody to just continue to connect with us. You can go and subscribe to my YouTube channel at Ann McNeil. But if you would like to have greater clarity in every area of your life, yes, you can connect with me as a part of our Clarity Mastermind. And you can go to annmcneil.com and get the information for that. But I want to also remind each of you who are listening live or in the future, you each must have a dream in order to have a dream come true. That's what this podcast is about. You must have your own imagination working for you, starting with your own desire. And Michael has shared his today, and we want to thank you for that, Michael. But we'd like to have you share with our guests how they can reach you, and if you have any products or services that you are focusing on that they can participate and connect with you on.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you for everyone who has tuned in today. Again, my name is Michael Baptiste. I'm an innovative life and business coach or consultant. And we have the High Ticket Freedom Academy. This is an online academy where we educate people on how to discover their superpower inside of themselves, package that superpower into a digital product or even a retail product that they can sell online, or they can even sell in stores if they'd like to, and essentially be able to build a business that they love, where they can impact people's lives around the world and be able to do what they want to do. That's what we do inside of High Ticket Freedom. And you can learn more by visiting highticketfreedom.com. And for those of you who like to reach out to me directly, you can actually send me an email at info@highticketfreedom.com. Again, that email is info@highticketfreedom.com. And for those of you who are on Facebook, if you'd like to, you can follow me on Facebook. Just go to facebook.com/Mr. Michael Baptiste, and you'll be able to connect with me personally there on Facebook.
Now, before we wrap up, Michael, I'd like to have you share with our guests your experience, first time attending our International Mastermind Association. Dr. Peter James shared with us the event, excuse me, not Peter, but Galen shared with us the event. And I think you did attend at least one.
Yes, multiple. I attended multiple. I
Okay.
think two or three, maybe two. Yeah, two. So my first experience attending the oh wow. As I think about it now, wow. So my first experience attending the International Mastermind event, it was phenomenal. I came up with some ideas in that event that I can honestly say it wasn't me. It was the power of the mastermind. Everybody was there, and it was just all types of ideas flowing. And the great thing is that some of those ideas, I still have them written down, and I'm still visioning and dreaming of one day being able to make some of those dreams come to reality. Not going to share all of them, but one of them is starting my own international basketball league. I know that's kind of out there, but that was one that I came up with at the event. Another one was wow, so many. I mean, I'm just trying to think now, because as I think back, I get nostalgic.
Let me say this to Michael. Mm-hmm. The irony of the story is that you wrote that goal prior to traveling internationally. I want to make sure people understood that. You wrote the goal prior to traveling internationally.
Yes.
Now, why? And I'm sharing this because when we have our annual event in the beginning of the year, we require, before you leave, that you write a letter to yourself. And in that letter to yourself, this is the January 7th and 8th event. This is the International Mastermind Accountability Meeting for Your Life. It's not a conference. No, there are no keynote speakers. There are no breakout sessions. It's just you at a table with a couple of people talking about your past. What did you do in every area of your life? What did you do in terms of setting goals spiritually, family-wise, financially, education, health? What's your personal development goals or your career goals? What about your business? What about your recreation, your creativity, and civic goals? Have you set those goals for 6 months, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? What about 40, 50 years in the future? What do you see? And so I wanted to come back to that because Michael did attend, and I just wanted you to actually do some reflecting, Michael. We've not talked about this, gosh, in over 10 years, but I think it's very important that when you write it down, you don't have to be concerned about how it's going to happen. And that's why I wanted to remind Michael that he wrote that goal before he traveled internationally. Because actually, Michael, you've not been to another one since you graduated. So we are going to look to see you in January, and you can do whatever you need to do to make that happen. I'm telling the world. So COVID, crisis, doesn't matter. You have sufficient time. Now, if I'm saying that to him, I'm saying it to each and every one of you. Our numbers are limited, and the investment is going up. Right now, the investment is less than going to a show and going to a nice dinner out. All right. So all of you, yes, I'm putting on my Ann McNeil hat now because I believe so strongly in this, because I've seen the lives of many of us change, even children, where they write a small little goal and then 5, 10, sometimes 15, 20 years later, that goal has been achieved. And so, Michael, you're an excellent example of that. That's why I thought you would be an ideal guest today to talk about your imagination. But now, what does it look like for the next 20 years? Can you share with us what does the future hold for you, if you don't mind sharing maybe 1 or 2 imaginary goals that you'd like to achieve?
Yes. So one of those goals looks like creating almost like a school, personal development, entrepreneurial development institution. Yeah, institution that has multiple locations around the world. That's something that's far out there. It's huge. It's a huge dream of mine. But it's something I see myself being able to do on a large scale. I would say that's one of them. The second thing is to be able to create multiple, like to create a consumer packaged goods empire where we have all types of products from non-dairy alternative milks to cereals, snacks, beverages, juices, cleaning detergents, different things like that. That I would say that's another one. And then I would say just to finish off this final one, my final dream is to, and this may sound a little simple for some people who may have already done this, but another one of my dreams is to get into creating educational resources for children. So children's books, writing children's stories. And it sounds out there, but this is another dream of mine to take the information that I've learned along my journey that's helped me transform myself and putting this information into books, putting this information to a brand that's going to help the coming children of the world begin to plant some seeds in their minds that will help them become successful later in life. I would say that's another big vision of mine. And another one is to have a family, to one day, to have a family. I'm gonna just keep it at that. I'll just keep it at that.
Well, listen, that's a very good place to wrap up. We're gonna invite all of our co-hosts back on as we wrap up the show. And I know the time is well invested, but guys, is there anything else any of you would like to add before we wrap up? Galen, Peter? I think you might be on mute.
Yeah, one thing I will share, and this is something I absolutely believe, we cannot achieve beyond our self-image. So if you're not achieving the kind of success that you want to have, evaluate how you're viewing yourself, because we cannot achieve beyond our self-image. And Michael, you've done a great job of demonstrating the power of imagination when we put it to work against those things that are really important to us. So thank you for that.
Yeah, good stuff overall. Again, Michael and Galen, another great show for sure. We're talking a lot about those big dreams, those big goals. Now, how do you make them even smaller? How do you get specific about what you are trying to do? And so now we've only talked about mainly the first step, but there's more steps after that. But you have to stay tuned for those.
All right. Thank you. And thank you so much also, Michael. And again, my name is Ann McNeil, and I am the Master Wealth Builder, helping you to build a stronger and wealthier business and life. And it is my honor and my pleasure every Saturday to come on and share with my co-hosts and to share with all of you. So we want to thank all of our listeners and everybody that participated in the chat and everybody that is joining us in live now or in the future. We also want to encourage you to come back next Saturday. We will host our masterclass live, where the three of us will put a bow on this chapter as we talk about the power of imagination. And again, you can connect with us through YouTube or Facebook or any of the other social media outlets. Again, my name is Ann McNeil, and I am the Master Wealth Builder, helping you to build a stronger and better life and business. And I want to continue to encourage each and every one of you. Please use the power of your imagination to think and grow rich. And we'll see you next Saturday. Thank you.